Brady, as you probably are aware, was a guest on the Howard Stern Show, and it was an interesting and wide-ranging interview. And one of the things he said that I found most interesting was when he was asked about his legacy, he responded in a way that very few people seem to be willing to believe. This was what he said.
I never cared about legacy. I mean, I could give a about. I never once when I was in high school said, man, I can't wait for what my football legacy looks like. It's just not me. That's not my personality. So why would I choose a different place? It's because it was just time. I don't know what to say other than that. Like, I had done everything. I accomplished everything I could in 2 decades with an incredible organization, incredible group of people, and that will never change.
Let's go to the legacy part of this with Dan and Marcus. Dan, do you believe Tom Brady when he says he was not and is not concerned about his legacy?
I don't think he's motivated by his legacy, but it still matters to him. I mean, Tom Brady's legacy is etched into our minds. It's indisputable. But I do believe that Tom Brady's legacy is still being written by him. You know, I've said this. I think if he goes and wins another Super Bowl outside of New England, he's in the conversation for greatest athlete ever. He's in the Muhammad Ali and Babe Ruth and Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan conversations. And so I don't know that the motivation of legacy has ever been there, but his legacy matters to him both on and off the football field, Greeny.
How about you, Marcus? Do you believe him?
I believe him. It's about his perspective, though. Gee, think about this, man. Going back to the late, great Kobe Bryant. When we reflected on Kobe Bryant's life, the thing that we talked about was how he embarked on his family journey, his fatherhood. I think that's what's most important to Tom Brady. So when you ask him about football, it's almost like it's defensive. Like, my legacy is really tied up into my family and Giselle, my wife, and making sure that everybody is straight. I look at this totally different. Obviously, Tom Brady knows his legacy in football, but 20 years ago, when he set out, he didn't even know if he would ever become a starter in this league. So it was no way he was looking down the road saying, I want my legacy to be the greatest quarterback of all time. Those things tend to build as you build a career. But I think more so Tom Brady is talking about getting away from the football narrative and talking about what his legacy is off the field. I think that's what's most important to him. I think that's the point he was making.
I have 2 thoughts on this. And the first of them, with regard to his football legacy, is this is the definition of playing with house money. Because Brady's football legacy, I think, cannot be diminished. If he goes to Tampa and it doesn't succeed, I don't think in any way that it diminishes what he has accomplished. And if he goes there and does succeed, Dan, to your point, I think his legacy is only enhanced. So I think he is only up to go and literally has almost no downside from a legacy standpoint. But more importantly, Dan Orlovsky, you and I both know that Tom Brady is as one who reads a lot of these sorts of books about psychology and things like that. And if we were to use our favorite sport of golf as an example, you don't stand on the first tee when you're playing golf and think, I want to shoot 65 today. You think, I need to hit one good shot here, and then I'll worry about the next one, and then the next one, and I'll add it all up when I'm done. And I think that's what Brady is talking about. I think he's taking things one step at a time as they make sense, and then we'll add it all up, i.e. his legacy, at the end when he's done.
Yeah, I think, Tom, that's why it's still getting written in his eyes. You know, his legacy has probably been a moving target, so to speak. And Marcus brings up a great point as well. Like, his legacy is going to be greater than football. It is going to be the impact of his teammates, an impact on his coaches. You know, legacy isn't something you leave for people. It's something you leave inside of people. And so all those people that Tom Brady is going to impact will be part of his legacy, whether football has been the vehicle or TB12 will be the vehicle. But to your point, Greeny, this is going to be something that Tom Brady will look back on and see how it's written. And right now, it's just not finished.
Let's get to one other thing he talked about yesterday. That is the issue, as they call it in the NFL now, of big trust. And that is the notion of the trust that he has with his receivers in particular, and how the folks in Tampa, particularly their star receivers down there, might be listening to this. This was more of Brady on the Howard Stern Show.
I would say, you know, I don't have any trust that this guy can help us, you know, win the game. I mean, I can definitely express my opinion to say, if you put him out there, I'm not going to throw him the ball, because I don't, right. You know, the whole team is trusting me to do what's right by the team. So you can't put someone out there that I don't believe in, because if I don't believe in him, then it's worthless for the team.
But that was really interesting. And I want to bring Bobby Carpenter back into the mix for this one because, Bob, you were there in New England for one interesting period of time, and you had an up-close and personal look at a good example of this. Tell us that story.
Yeah, it was very interesting because I get there in 2012, and we had the traditional offseason that everybody had been going through where you have your OTAs, you have your mini camp, you go through all of that situation. Well, the previous season, they traded for Chad Johnson. He came in, he was coming off a Pro Bowl season a couple years before that, but in 15 games with the New England Patriots, he could only catch 15 balls in 2011. He could only get targeted 13% of the time. And all through the offseason, I watched Tom work with Chad, and I didn't understand why. I asked one of the receivers, and Tom just doesn't really like the way he runs his routes. It's not the fact that he can't get open. It's not the fact that he's not still good. It's the fact that when he's coming out of his breaks, Tom doesn't necessarily trust it because it's a way that he's never seen a receiver operate before, and that bothered Tom. And so if you're not on the same page with him, it's never going to work.
So it's an interesting way of looking at it. So, Marcus, I'll come back to you here. So now you're Mike Evans and you're Chris Godwin, and you have the GOAT coming to Tampa. What do you think is going through their mind as far as how they're going to work with Tom?
Well, they have to have, first of all, you have to humble yourself, because if it's something that he doesn't like, he's the distributor of the football. And in order for you to have success, he's going to have to be on the same page with you. Obviously, that's what Bobby is saying. And to Tom Brady, he's going to have to understand that facilitating these relationships may be different. Look, to me, leadership has always been this, G, and this is basically what we're talking about, because everybody in Tampa is going to be looking for Tom Brady to add leadership, not only good play. Leadership is understanding how to approach guys in different manners to get through to them. That's what leadership is. It's not this one overall arching idea that you have for your receivers to be this and them to be better and be able to work with what you do. You have to adjust as well. And I think Tom Brady has been one of the best in this league at doing that for a long time, i.e. all the receivers that he's had and had success with. So when he goes into Tampa, he needs to figure out, obviously, what Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, what they're like, who they are as people, but not only that, who they are as football players and how they think. And he has to adjust some things about what he does and his approach to them.
And Dan, you used video really well to give us an illustration of this past season here on Get Up. Let's do that again.
Yeah, Greeny, we took everyone. We saw it first, really, last year, the lack of trust. It was that Sunday night football game against the Houston Texans, and Brady's got that communication. He's trying to signal to the bottom of the screen. He sees the defense, and he's trying to get Dorsett to really run a double move. It's the perfect play call versus what Houston wants to run. And he throws the ball anticipating and trusting that he saw the hand signal, and it's a touchdown if he does. And Dorsett never sees it. He snaps his route off, and all it ends up is being a long foul ball where it's a deep incompletion. And it really was this moment where Tom Brady's on the sideline saying, hey, I gave this guy the signal. He didn't see it. And that was the first time the public expression of the lack of trust. So we saw it last year in New England. But I want to spin it forward to Tampa Bay. And if Mike Evans and Godwin and O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate are listening to me, you guys better listen to Tom Brady and what he said yesterday, because he's telling you exactly what he wants. Trust. And I heard Mike Martz say this when he was coaching us as a player one time, and it's important for these guys to understand this as wide receivers for him. As a wide receiver, be where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, and don't fool Tom Brady. And if those guys really grasp that and realize that's the most important thing to Tom Brady, they will be totally successful in their pass game.
It'll be interesting to see how much time they have to get on a field, practice field. Certainly, it'll be far less than a normal circumstance would be before they're able to start working together. All right, speaking of Tampa in an indirect way, Jameis Winston was a guest on Fox News Channel's America's Newsroom yesterday, discussing a toll-free hotline that he helped establish to answer public questions about the coronavirus. And while he was there, he was also asked about being replaced by Tom Brady in Tampa, and this is what he said.
One thing about Tom Brady is it's understood that he is the GOAT. And for you to get replaced by Tom Brady in a city that you love so much, I guess that's kudos to me. But at the end of the day, it's a competitive sport. We all in the business. So I'm excited for whatever opportunity it may hold. And eventually, I'm going to have to play the Tom Brady's, the Patrick Mahomes, and all the other great quarterbacks eventually. So that's how you win Super Bowls, and that's what I want.
I thought that was really interesting. And Dan, I think that the mentality in this is going to be the most important piece. Everyone who watches the show knows that I continue to believe in Jameis Winston. But, Dan, you were a backup quarterback, and you understand that role, and there's a particular mentality and psychology that goes into that. And I think that's going to be a real challenge. You hear him saying there, I got replaced in Tampa. Yeah, but it's because it was the greatest quarterback of all time. I think that what he is going to have to change the way he thinks about all of this if he is going to succeed going forward. What do you think?
Greeny, it's about listening. And I've said this, like, Jameis Winston needs to listen to what the NFL is telling him, because right now they're telling him, but you're not a starting quarterback in the NFL. The turnovers are, you forcing the football into the tight windows is an issue, and you not being able to see coverage change is an issue. And until you get that fixed, no, you are not a starting quarterback in the NFL. And Jameis needs to realize, like, listen, the right choice is different than the choice that you want. And the right choice right now for his career, long term, is to go be a backup quarterback and to sit and learn, because it doesn't mean that that's the end of the journey. Look at Teddy Bridgewater this year. Teddy Bridgewater had the chance to go be the starting quarterback of the Dolphins, but he made the right choice. Not the choice that he wanted. He wanted to start, but the right choice was to go to the healthy place in New Orleans and see if you can get on the field, and he did, and now he is a starting quarterback. But Jameis, listen, you don't have to change your mindset of what you believe in yourself, but you have to be willing to listen to the NFL, and they're telling you right now, you're a backup quarterback, and he needs to realize that's his best opportunity today.
What do you think, Marcus?
He's a backup quarterback to Tom Brady, and obviously, to that point, and Dan mentioned it late when he was talking about it, I don't want Jameis Winston to change that mentality. I want him to change the way he plays and some decision making, but I want him to keep that same mentality. I want every quarterback, if I'm a defensive player like I was for the Dallas Cowboys, I want every quarterback on my team to believe that they are a